and then I'll pass it over to you to do your presentation, if that's okay.
That'll work, Ref.
And we'll do your presentation at the end. Or did you already make up an agenda?
No, the agenda was just presentation, reports, Q&A. So that's it.
Okay, that'll work. So yeah, we'll do that. Do it that way. Well, let's go ahead and start. And because we don't have a large crowd right now, hopefully others will join. We had over 20 people to register. I don't know if everybody's going. Oh, Allison said she's doing it solo tonight, so I get it. But we'll get those who can to introduce themselves real quick. And Allison, we understand you're not being on video. As a matter of fact, once I pass it to Kyle, I'll probably come off the video myself. But that's just because I'm sick of looking at a screen all day. Don't mind hearing voices, but I've been looking at a screen in some shape, form, or fashion all day long, and I understand the frustration in it over time. So, welcome to Energizing the South for Energy Justice in our May, isn't it May or June? Is it June? May meeting. I can't even remember what day it is. We have been extremely active out here in these streets, trying to get it done for the people, making sure that our voices are heard and our issues are understood. We're also, as we've already said before, we're right now moving into we just got a grant rather for resiliency to restoration hubs throughout the Gulf states. We've already identified some partners and have them on board. I meant to tell you too, Cal, and I forgot that I spoke with Reverend Jenny via email. We've still got to get on track and have a real, intentional meeting about this. But she's thought about pathways being education portion to the resiliency hubs.
Excellent.
So when we look at pathways, theological, and Rev is on the call, but I didn't ask you to talk, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. But if I say something that may be different from your view, then just jump in and correct me. That's Reverend Jenny Farrell. But Rev, Pathway Theological is an online theological seminary or school that we are all taking part in, teaching some classes and helping to design some curriculum, but being able to utilize that, and you do get credits for it and everything else for continuing education, but being able to utilize that with communities of faith and teach environmental justice as well as resiliency to restoration from this theological standpoint sounds like an excellent fit to me. We've just got to be able to get it down and have this intentional meeting so we can get the actual thoughts articulated properly and make some decisions on how we move it forward. But I think it's an excellent fit and look forward to that marriage. Rev, did you want to jump in and say anything about that? I don't want to silence you, but I didn't ask you to speak, so I want to make sure I'm not putting you on the spot.
Well, when was it? A couple of weeks ago, I heard a woman from Uniontown, Alabama. Portia?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you started talking about that, and I think Michael Brown started talking about this too at another meeting. And I thought, that by itself might make a 4 or 6 week course that could be a good training field. I already did write one community organizing course, and I thought we might need another, and this might fill that bill. So yeah. I mean, I'm game to look into it. There's nothing definite yet, but it's certainly worth a conversation and laying some plans.
Beautiful.
To go. yeah, because right now, from a meeting 2 years ago, we're still working on 4 environmental justice courses that would slip right into getting some training people how to move out and do the things they want to do.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. While I have you, Reb, if you would just introduce yourself, name, pronouns, organization, and where you're located.
I'm Reverend Ginny Farrell. I'm with Pathways on the board of directors with Pathways Theological Education. I live in Metro Atlanta. I'm retired clergy in the United Church of Christ, which Michael and I share, or Michael. And yeah, I'm really excited to be learning about environmental justice. It's profound. I mean, when I'm working on food sovereignty right now, I just want to talk about this for just a second. And as I grow in understanding, this is radical. This is the radical Jesus that we know about, and it's exciting. It's exciting, and so yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I tell everybody I'm a Jesus follower, but I'm not that Jesus that holds hands and sings Kumbaya. I'm that Jesus that went in the temple and turned over tables and whooped ass. That's the Jesus I am. Rev Mel, if you would introduce yourself.
Excuse me. I'm Mel Caraway. I'm a retired United Methodist pastor. I live in McKinney, Texas, he, him. And I am with Impact Texas Interfaith Power and Light, and also with Southeast Climate and Energy Network, and also with the United Methodist Creation Justice Movement.
Thank you. Now, I'll come back to you, Allison, in just a moment. If you would just identify in the chat if you can. I cannot speak. But in the meantime, Jerry, if you would introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Jerry Friedman, she, her pronouns. I am a transplanted Floridian. I'm now in the state of Michigan, and I am working with PJC. And I'm very excited on this particular project, from resilience to restoration. So I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Jerry. How about you, Miss Allison?
Hey, I'm Allison Grant. I'm an artist who makes work about environmental issues, and I am a professor of photography at the University of Alabama. So nice to see you all.
Ooh, I want to know you.
I want to know you too. I love it.
Well, I was just in Tuscaloosa a couple of days ago.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Good and hot.
Wow. I fancy myself an amateur photographer. And so, yes, I definitely want to know you. I have big dreams when it comes down to doing this photography stuff and the environmental movement. I think we have been impactful with our images, but I think we can be even more impactful if we're intentional.
Well,
so yes, I'd love to.
I will say you've got the equipment.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.
Well, and you're only amateur in your mind, right?
no, Rev was he was documenting our Interfaith Power and Light National meeting last week in Washington, and he did a great job with that.
I appreciate it.
I had somebody email me that they had seen the group picture and they identified a couple of us in that.
Nice. I will pass it back on over to Kyle to introduce himself, and then Kyle, if you would just well, actually, I take it back. Let me hold you tight real quick, Kyle. Let me do this. Let's do a round robin and see if there are any state updates. I know Mel has one, but I want to make sure that we hear from other states as well. So, Bro Mel, if you would you were telling us about what was going on in Texas.
Well, one of the things is that every 10 years, the Sunset Commission evaluates and excuse me, different agencies of state government. This year, one of those agencies is the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ. Another one is ERCOT, which is our power grid. But apparently, TCEQ did a self-evaluation back in the fall, in September, and then the commission is still hearing testimony, but they have released a report, and apparently the governor sat on that for quite a while, and it was just released yesterday or today. Not a great deal of transparency, and this is a part of the problems that we're dealing with in Texas, is that total lack of transparency and willingness to adhere to EPA regulations. And so this is one of the major issues that we've been dealing with. And I did in-person testimony 10 years ago at TCEQ Sunset. And one of the things that they have done is, over the last 20 years, they have taken their mission statement and morphed it from guarding the health and well-being of all Texans into guarding the economic system that exists and the power structure behind that. So
Appreciate it, Mayor.
Yeah.
Reverend Jenny, I know you're in Georgia. Do you have any updates for anything that's happening in Georgia? If not, I do have a couple of updates for Georgia that I know of.
I'm going to let you do it. Thank you.
Okay. This week they have been in IRP meetings. For us, that's how they determine the rates that people pay and how they come up with the rates. In Georgia, they've been determining that this week. I was actually in Georgia with Arm in Arm doing some demonstrations. They also were having the Southern Company shareholders annual meeting at Callaway Garden while we were there. And so we were able to do some demonstration at Callaway Garden as well. I actually had to run from the police, y'all. They came looking for me. It was beautiful. It was so fun. That, you know, that's the kind of good trouble I like to get in. I have yet to be caught. I've been chased a few times at this point, but they ain't been able to catch me. I told them I feel like, you know, if you ever read the scripture, how it says Jesus passed through them. I felt like that on this one, because I'm sitting up there and I'm walking next to this police officer, listening at them on the radio, trying to describe me in the vehicle I was in. And I'm walking next to him just smirking because I know it's me they talking about. But I also knew that was my cue to leave too. So I didn't go to jail. I didn't go to jail down in South Georgia. But anyway, so that took place this week, as well as they had elections. And Chandra Farley, who was one of our board members, but also is a very important partner with us here at PJC. She wound up losing her race. So we were really, really hoping she'd be able to get in, because her getting in meant that we'd have at least one ally that we know of. We've got one person that's kind of rogue that's working on the Public Service Commission in Georgia, but we know for sure we have an ally with Chandra, and it just didn't take place. It didn't happen. So, I mean, it is what it is. We get her back, and we're going to keep on moving along the line. But that's the updates that we have so far. In Louisiana, we're getting ready for the Go South for Green New Deal, Climate Justice and Joy, that's taking place in Baton Rouge. That'll be taking place next week. I'll be there. I've got a few speaking roles during that particular convening. And so that should be fun, as well as I'm shooting. That should be very fun, being able to be a part of that, and seeing what kind of good trouble we can get in Louisiana. While we were at the Arm in Arm, what we were meeting on is a campaign that we're coming up with or designing against Southern Company, to really highlight the cruelty of Southern Company to community, as well as to ask these politicians why they're accepting their money, to say nothing about this cruelty that's happening. So we've got some big things happening with Arm in Arm and Southern Company. Again, looking at utilities, looking at why our people are basically locked in poverty due to them having high utility bills. So this is going to be something that's going to be excellent for us to be able to be a part of. As PJC, we're actually leading the Georgia state. We're state leads for Georgia. Alabama has gas as the state lead, and so we're working also with Alabama, with Michael Hansen and gas on that. So listen, we've got some excellent things happening, super dope stuff happening, and including the Resilience to Restoration Hub. I will now pass it to Kyle to introduce himself, give Alabama updates if he has, and he also has a presentation that I am so looking forward to. Thank you, Kyle. It's on you now.
Thank you, Rev. I'm Kyle Crider, he, his pronouns. I'm the Program and Policy Director for both Alabama Interfaith Power and Light and the People's Justice Council. And wish I had better news out of Alabama, but one thing that was surprising in a good way is that for our Public Service Commission race, there were 2 of 3 commissioners running. Of course, all Republican, all extremely hostile to everything that we are for, basically. And the interesting thing is, while in the past some Democrat contenders didn't get anywhere, this time there were Republican contenders, Republicans saying things like, maybe it's time to examine our rate structure, re-examine our rate structure, and certainly sounding more friendly toward solar power, for example, possibly being open to repeal the tax on free sunlight. So the interesting thing is that despite the fact that they were both incumbents, both Jeremy Oden and Chip Beaker are in runoffs with Republican contenders. So maybe we'll get somebody a little better than them. They were ahead in the vote, but it was close enough for a runoff. So we're watching that one, and happy to tell y'all more about what's going on in Alabama. But that probably ain't why y'all are here. I'm about to share my screen. I hope. All right. If there's any trouble seeing this, let me know. But I've got a quick presentation. As y'all know, we are very interested in energy and environmental justice mapping. I'm an old GIS geek, and kind of building on the Uniontown presentation that we had last month. And since we've got Allison here, we just submitted a grant to National Science Foundation that Allison was involved with. Thank you very much, along with us. And this grant would focus on both Uniontown and Union Springs, also in Alabama's Black Belt, as model communities for resilience. Now, we'll certainly tell you more about the grant if we get it, but regardless of whether we get that grant or not, these are 2 areas of focus for us. In fact, we hope to have speakers for you from Union Springs, wonderful group called Little USA Solar, doing some cool things there, along with other folks. So we are certainly focused on Uniontown and Union Springs. So I wanted to tell you a little more about them tonight, while at the same time giving folks a crash course in free environmental and energy justice mapping tools. And I'm going to start with this one that I just learned about, this oil and gas threat map. And of course, we're recording this, so this this presentation will be available. I'm also going to post all of the links that I'm telling you about in the chat at the end. So at the end, you can just save the chat, and you'll have links to all these things I'm showing you here. But this one was new to me, so I started investigating it. And the interesting thing about the oil and gas threat map, that is, how close do you live to an oil or natural gas well or facility, is that the Black Belt is remarkably free if you look at Alabama. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not threats from oil and gas. They just may be in the form of pipelines. So here is another organization that tracks the pipelines in the United States. And it informed me that there were no pipelines or other such transmission lines in Bullock County, where Union Springs is, but Uniontown has these that are marked, both gas transmission pipelines and hazardous liquid pipelines. What does that mean? Well, you can actually, as you zoom in, right click and identify these lines. And so I clicked on the one that was identified as hazardous liquid, and it informs me that it's a Dixie Pipeline Company. And so you can get the details of what is in your backyard, either physically planted there or running through it in the form of a pipeline through these sites. But back to Alabama's Black Belt. These are the counties that are historically considered to be part of Alabama's Black Belt. One of my favorite places, it's a prehistoric seashore. It gets its name for the rich soil. And then there's cool things like the Selma Chalk Formation that I could geek out about as well. But let's look at some of the counties in Alabama's Black Belt. Uniontown is in Perry County. So you'll see Perry, if you look kind of to the left hand of the orange band that represents the traditional or historic Black Belt, you'll see Perry in the top row of counties, fourth from the left. So again, this is where Uniontown is. And there's a site called countyhealthrankings.org that lets us know what the health demographics of these counties look like. And not surprisingly to those of us that work in this area, Alabama's Black Belt is heavily impacted. These counties have very poor health rankings. So Bullock is where Union Springs is. So Alabama has 67 counties. Bullock is ranked 54th in health outcomes, 65th in health factors. Perry County, Uniontown, 65th in health outcomes, 63rd in health factors. And what's the worst? I was curious. So it's Wilcox, 67 of 67. And so backing up, you can see Wilcox is just below Perry County. In fact, since Uniontown is down in that little southern arm, it's very close to Wilcox County, actually. All right, y'all are probably already familiar with EJ Screen, the EPA's venerable environmental justice mapping tool that recently got a makeover. So I'm going to have to update our little how-to guide that we have on our website for how to use this. So tonight's presentation will use updated images. They've really done a good job with the user interface, the look and feel of the site. You can type like Uniontown, AL in the search, and it'll zoom in like this. And at left, you'll see things, your menu options that you can click on, that in our traditional GIS talk would be layers, add or remove layers of this information on the map. So if you click on socioeconomic indicators, it expands And I chose demographic index to kind of give us an overview of what Uniontown looks like. And you can click in any of these shaded areas for more information, as you can see. And again, most of you know this, but in terms of indexes or percentiles, you know, higher is probably going to be bad for most of the things we're looking at. Less than high school education. Well, the 27%, the low percent corresponds to a high percentile of folks that did not complete high school. That is 88% of the country has more high school education than Uniontown. And by the way, this is we're talking about an area within a mile of Uniontown that you're about to see here. The cool thing about these maps, when I got started with the environmental mapping project, kind of our niche where we weren't reinventing the wheel was adding houses of faith to, of course, both PJC and ALIPL, People's Justice Council, Alabama Interfaith Power and Light, are interfaith organizations. So, and we view, in terms of our From Resilience to Restoration grant, these sites as the real restoration hubs. So we talk about our national hub and our state hubs and state coordinators, but the real focus of our work is on local houses of faith and frontline communities. They are our true restoration hubs. And we can overlay houses of faith, turn on that layer of the map by clicking at left. This is now a little different menu. The first menu I showed you here was, you can see that in the tabs kind of up above the menu titles, the little hamburger-like stack, the square stack is what is selected. Here it's the pin. So the pin gives us more options. So on the stack, we can look at things like socioeconomic indicators, health disparities, climate change data. But when we go to the pin, we can overlay information like houses of worship. And we can mix and match these, but it gets complicated real fast. So I've tried to keep it clean for purposes of this presentation. But when you click on a feature of interest, in this case, the Uniontown Church of God, you can generate a report that is very helpful. I'm going to show you a couple of screenshots from the report that I generated from this site. So this report basically takes in all available data within a mile of the location that I have selected. So I'm saying Uniontown, but it's everything within a mile of that Church of God. And again, these percentiles, higher is bad. So 85% of the country ranks better for particulate matter, 2.5 per micron particulate matter, for example, is how you would read this. And here it is graphically. So we can see that Uniontown and all of these health indicators is well above the middle mark of problem. Now switching over to Union Springs. Union Springs is in Bullock, which is kind of middle of the band toward the right-hand side, Bullock County. Zooming in on Union Springs, socioeconomic indicators, places of worship. So I selected this AME church to generate the following report. And so anyone, any institution, any house of faith can go to these mapping sites and generate the same reports for free. These are all paid for with our tax dollars. They are freely available, and they are very useful. Now, this one that I'm about to tell you about has gone through a little bit of controversy. As many of you know, this is a tool that is in beta, this climate and economic justice screening tool. And it's a bit controversial because in trying to avoid controversy, specifically in trying to avoid lawsuits that might prevent any information from getting out, There was some key information that was left off of this, like race, but it's still a very useful tool, and others have fixed what was missing. So happy to get into those details if folk need them offline. But again, I'll be posting links to all these. But this is brand new; it's in beta, and can show you areas of environmental justice interest. So these gray shades are I see Mel has raised a hand. Yeah, let me pause and go ahead, Mel.
It helps to unmute. Back in the Uniontown, you were showing the health quotients.
Yes,
Is,
like there.
yeah, is that from the University of Wisconsin and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, who've done a study of health outcomes for every county in the U.S.?
It very well may be. The metadata is available. I can't tell you off the top of my head. Since I've looked at so many different mapping tools, I'm not sure, but it very well could be, Mel. Thank you.
Because that's a study that I'm somewhat familiar with. We did some work with that 10 years ago.
It would not surprise me that the EPA is using that. Thank you.
Because we got a grant from Robert Wood Johnson on health outcomes.
Very cool. Well, these gray areas indicate environmental justice impact zones, essentially. This is where we're looking for frontline communities, for looking to work with houses of faith. When Rev's on the road, he wants to visit these spots. So zooming in, of course, it's at first it may not seem very helpful just to say, well, of course, all this area is heavily impacted as we zoom in on Uniontown, but there's and at first it doesn't look like there's a lot of options. Like we don't see all the menu options in the EJ mapping tool from EPA, but this is actually very useful because and it may not be intuitive, but what you have to do is click on an area of the map, even within a gray shade. And what we're viewing here is a census tract. So this census tract, which splits Uniontown, which includes Uniontown, once an area is selected, the menu then pops up and you can see what's available. So looking at right, anything with a blue dot by it is something that is contributing to this EJ classification. That's where the problems are. So again, you click the category to expand it. So, and I love that they included this in the map because we're doing energy burden work, and for the longest, I was having a heck of a time getting energy burden overlays for free for our work. I mean, the energy companies have all this information. They just don't want to make it publicly available. So I was really scrambling for public data, and then now this is all incorporated. We can see, for example, that this census tract that includes Uniontown is in the 99th percentile for energy burden. That is 99% of the folk in the country aren't as heavily impacted on their utility bills as the folk in Uniontown. And then zipping over to Union Springs, we are almost done here. Same thing. Here is our census tract, which gives us our menus that we can expand. And even Union Springs is in the 94th percentile for energy burden, for example. And there's plenty of other things that you can look at. But the trick is, at first it looks like the map is not very helpful as you go back to this, but the key is to zoom in and click on your particular area of interest, and then you'll have all these options that you can expand and view more details on. And as you can see at the bottom, there's a download the data sources. Now this downloads the whole data source, all 741 megabytes. But if you're a real data geek, feel free to dive in. And I think, yep, that is it. So let me pause let everybody take a breath. Let me take a breath anyway. And questions, comments?
Kyle, thank you. Did we have any questions for Kyle with this presentation?
That was very helpful.
Let me say, this is Alabama's focus. We are, as Alabama Interfaith Power and Light, we are the Alabama hub. And according to what we've gathered, or what Kyle actually has gathered with the data, we know that energy burden in these two areas are part of what will make them more resilient. It's also a part of what restores them as well, restorative justice. And so this is why we chose, as Alabama's hub, to pilot or to focus in these two areas first and try to meet the needs of this area first, and then branch out throughout Alabama. But just really looking at this as a project for Alabama's hub, that doesn't mean that this is a project for each and every state, because your state may have another issue that you may find when we go and we start doing listening and we do research on what's happening in your state. But we want to be able to support, as far as the resiliency hub, we want to be able to support however resiliency looks for your state while we're doing restorative justice. So just wanted to make sure we put that out there. This is a tool. This is a tool, or these are tools, and part of what the People's Justice Council does is we provide access and tools to communities so that they can build power for change at the policy level. So we want to make sure we're able to identify what the problem is so that we can properly address the problem, and this helps us to do so. Thank you, Kyle, for your presentation. Thank you. Again, we know that we'll continue to hear more and more about maps, because that's the thing that gets you most excited. Just as you see me light up when Allison said that she was a professor of photography, I definitely want to know you. But anyway, I am grateful for you all being with us. Let me open it up one more time. Do we have any questions or comments at this time?
Links are in the chat. You can click the ellipsis right above where you type your chat message, and you can save the chat, or just copy and paste them out of the chat, whatever's easiest.
Beautiful. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I don't believe in holding people past their time. On the next time, we'll have a different presentation. Again, we're providing tools and access, and we're also building out our resilience to restoration hubs. Thank you all again for being with us. Thank you for sticking with us throughout this presentation. And we look forward to seeing you next time. You will get a email with relevant links, as well as the recording to this meeting.
Rev,
Mel, you.
yeah, were you going to do a questionnaire?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you asked. I said that. This is not just for the people that are attending right now, but we want to, this is also for those who registered, as well as those on our mailer. We want to make sure we send out a survey, because we want to speak to you directly. We want to make sure that we're designing these resilience and restoration hubs, not just with you in mind, but with you alongside. And so we want to send out a survey to make sure that we shape this time that we have together, and we're meeting the needs of those who are participating, as well as those who are actually attending the meetings. This will help to shape out who we have as speakers, as well as the subjects. So we want to send out a survey to ask everybody, basically, what does resiliency and restoration look like for you and your community? And what do you need help with? So we're preparing that survey right now to send that out to get some feedback, so that we can make this particular webinar, that much more better. We're looking at these being our monthly resilience to restoration meetings through the Energizing the South for Energy Justice. So that's the way that we're headed, but we need you all to help us to shape that. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Mel, for reminding me about that. Please, please, please do stay in touch and continue to participate with us. We've got a lot of ground to cover, but we've got some mighty, mighty hands that's helping us in this fight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Allison, if you would, I would love for you and I to have a conversation on a more personal level, because I am serious about this photography stuff. I am so serious about it. And you just
I can send an introductory email if that's if your NSF grant email is the one to use.
You
Yeah,
said what,
that's great.
Cal?
I'm sorry to be so chatty on the chat box, but it's a little chaotic over here, but that'd be great.
No problem. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Appreciate you joining us and working around family.
Yeah, my
My
pleasure.
heart is
Thank you
happy.
for everything.
Yes, my heart is happy. Thank you again. Thank y'all for being with us. And we will talk to you all next time. Have a great evening.